I had no plan really. Never was one to have one. All I had was a degree in computer engineering. I also knew how to write, rather well, though I say so myself, and I could talk rather well too. I also had more than a passing interest in maths, and I loved Jane Austen. Pride and Prejudice, truth be told, more than Jane Austen. Initially, all of that got me a job at a call center of all places. There I sat in the dead of night and answered calls from customers livid about their stubborn HP Pavilion computers. I also wrote to these customers sympathetic email messages, consoling them about their loss, empathetic email messages, participating in their loss, and email messages with troubleshooting tips for their restless little printers, mischievous scanners, and all-in-ones. I think I must have put my empathy and problem-solving skills into hundreds, perhaps thousands of email messages to such customers who were in dire technological distress. From there, because I wanted to explore what else I could write and what else could I try my hand at, I moved. I moved to copy-edit Digit, a technology magazine. At Digit, I learned the nitty-gritty of editing and writing, which means I had to rewrite, I had to cut, I had to inflate, and I had to deflate, and then repeat the whole cycle over and over again. I also learned how to coordinate amicably among editors, writers and product reviewers, freelancers, photographers, illustrators and graphics artists, and the all-important marketing executives. Of course, there was the usual drama that you see at a media publication, a snapshot of which is unfolding on your screen right now. But well, I loved it all. Much less so when it went on way into the night, but really I loved it all. Thereafter, I began my stint in the field of academic editing at Cactus. I edited research papers on a variety of topics. Research papers that were meant to be published in journals such as Elsevier. Academic editing requires a certain sort of consistency, and to achieve that, you've got to use style guides. And well, that's exactly what I did. This was the time I got acquainted with the Chicago Manual of Style, or the CMOS, the American Psychological Association Style, or the APA, famously used for citations and references, and the Modern Language Association Style, or the MLA. These style guides started to weave themselves into my editing and writing skills at this point in time. And then came my stint with instructional design and technical writing, which made use of all I had learned so far. Instructional design had me working with a wide range of companies that in turn worked for a rather eclectic mix of diverse and interesting client accounts. For these accounts, I created and at times managed the creation of training or educational courses on such varied topics as computer networking concepts, public key infrastructure, an important aspect of cybersecurity, operating systems, word processing applications, public health policy, culinary management, physics, English literature, economics and financial accounting, design thinking, digital marketplaces and digital business strategies, and leadership. While most of these courses were designed to be delivered digitally via e-learning platforms, a sizable number of them blended offline learning that was initiated by research assignments, projects, and surveys with online learning, which ran on the same aspects as those of the e-learning courses. As for technical writing, that had me being very precise and to the point in application programming interface guides, API guides, which provide details about the programming language used to generate software applications, how-to guides, installation and help guides, release notes, and troubleshooting guides. I created and reviewed and managed such technical documentation for topics such as geographical information systems, insurance policy processing systems, and IT network storage systems. If you ask me, instructional design and technical writing are two sides of the same coin. Both help you learn a new skill or two. Instructional design is used extensively for education over a long period of time. Think online degree courses and application training programs. while the product of technical writing you tend to use at the last minute to put you out of your misery. Think the help guides that you refer to when you're stuck using that software in the dead of night. Which means that both endeavor to teach to the point of need. That is, both teach to fulfill a fixed set of objectives. Now, what does differentiate the two to a large extent are the assessments that instructional design insists upon as a means of reinforcing what you've just learned. Well, through it all, I had to ensure that I wrote coherently and cohesively so that the text that I produced was understood and digested by the target audience. I also had to ensure that my edits, extensive as they were precise, so that the prose that it led to was concise and did not ramble across hill and dale. As for talking, well, I had to talk to procure information and fill in the gaps and smoothen out bumps. That came in handy as and when I had to be part of a gap or a needs analysis for these projects. Now, sometime after I had run the gamut of things I was doing, I realized I wanted to teach. To me, that seemed like a logical extension of what I was doing already. Let me explain why. At that point in time, I could write and edit and offer advice as to how content had to be written. What's more, I could talk about the whole writing and editing process in detail as well. So it just followed, at least to me it did, that I was in a position to teach. Teach English, that is. So I got myself certified in English language teaching via Trinity College London sometime in 2017 and have been teaching English for entrance examinations. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. I tend to make my classes communicative. That is, in my training sessions, you hear more from the students and less from me. You'll hear from me, of course, but only when required. That aside, I also use the inductive methodology of language teaching, which is a sort of derivative of the communicative approach. Now, what does that mean? Well, allow me to explain. Were we in a class together and I were to be tasked with telling you what I do for a living, I would have engaged you in a conversation on the basis of what you have observed of me when I walked in and interacted with you all, and on what you think of the work samples I would have furnished. Through that conversation, I would have extracted the information you were to get from me from you yourself. You see, I relied on the knowledge you have already and your perception of it. I also relied on your ability to analyze and synthesize existing information that you have and new information provided to you. This is a teaching style that does go a long way to help students form their own rules to learn languages. I followed this particular teaching style when I trained employees at Larsen & Toubro on business English and critical thinking. I also employed it successfully at Jamboree Education, where I trained students for the GMAT and the SAT examinations. This methodology of teaching was an integral part of my English language training sessions for a group of lawyers at HRLN as well. And finally, let me tell you about something that I've been very keen and excited about. Since April 2020, I have been volunteering as an audiobook narrator for Librivox.org. Librivox is an initiative that makes available audiobooks for free. This has allowed me to read and record stories and poems by various writers. Stories and poems I would otherwise never have had a chance to know, much less to cherish. I'm pretty sure that sometime down the line, I'll be reading a bit of Jane Austen for Librivox as well. That is a truth that I'm quite sure will soon be universally acknowledged. If you would like to listen in to what I've recorded, which I would really love, do click the link to my Librivox recordings in this video's description. Well, that's about it from me then. Thank you for taking the time to listen and watch what I had to say. I do hope we have a chance to have a conversation very soon. And until then, here's me saying bye-bye.